He's not going to Clemson. He's not going to Michigan. Hardy Watts is coming to Madison. AJ Blazek hits another home run. How good is this guy? I'm Rajiv. Justin's got the night off. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bucky Report, your destination for all things Wisconsin Badgers. Authentic takes.
Oh my God.
Game analysis.
Touchdown Badgers! Ring one up!
And discussion from the fan perspective.
Woo-hoo!
Thanks for joining us and on Wisconsin.
Welcome to the Bucky Report. I'm your host, Rajiv. Justin, not with us today. We are back together on a Monday evening, not exactly a Sunday, due to some travel plans that Justin and I had to talk about all things Wisconsin Badgers. On today's show, composite four-star offensive lineman Hardy Watts makes his commitment to the Badgers. We get into the process and discuss why he is on his way to Madison. Coach AJ Blazek is swinging for the fences and hitting. Has he been the biggest addition to this entire team this past year? And we get into Eric Schmidt, a special teams addition to this squad. We are at the Bucky Report on Twitter, YouTube, and wherever you can find your podcast. If you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button so you know when we make new content. Apologies for the late live show. For those of you joining us live, if you're going to listen to this later, doesn't matter, of course, and we thank you for that. If you're listening to us live, thank you for joining us. It is late. It is 10:30 Pacific time. It is 12:30 a.m. Central time. I play volleyball on Monday nights. So because we didn't record yesterday, Justin's out of town. Here we are today. But I'm not alone this evening. You know, we love having him on the show. You guys love having him on the show. He brings great information, and he's with us again today.
The Bucky Report proudly welcomes Nick Osen from 247 Sports.
Back again with us, Badger beat writer from 247 Sports, Nick Osen. Nick, how are you, my friend? Thanks for joining me on a late night show. I appreciate it.
Rajiv, honestly, I'm doing awesome, man. You know, it was some incredible news earlier, which we're going to get into. It's a blast to be on the show. I love hearing that little welcome, you know, that gave me a little extra energy. It is late out here, but I couldn't pass up this opportunity. You had a great family trip. Justin's still in the midst of one. And this is your guy, man. So we've got to get into it a little bit.
6'6", 290-pound offensive lineman Hardy Watts out of Brookline, Massachusetts, commits to Wisconsin this morning. You know, if you remember back, Nick, a few weeks ago, we were doing the OV show. We were preparing for official visits, and Hardy Watts came up. And I said exactly this. I said, if you, and I'm not a guy who watches a ton of film, not like you and Justin do, but I do watch quite a bit, especially doing this show. If you're going to watch someone's tape, go watch Hardy Watts. And I'm telling you, anyone who's listening to this, when you do, you're going to be excited when you see this guy because he looks like a guy who's going to play in the NFL. And I think Nick and I both agree that this is a guy that can play in the NFL. What incredible talent Hardy Watts has. He's coming to Madison. AJ Blazek does another great thing. I mean, one more piece to this offensive line class, which is really shaping up. And boy, O-line U is in full effect. Hardy Watts is huge. I mean, this is great. And the one thing that I would say, Nick, and then I want to get your take on him, of course, the hands. That to me is the number one thing I see with this guy and how strong his hands are and how well he plays. He's a men among boys. He's a men among boys. That's what I see when I watch his tape. Now, there's a lot of tape as him playing a tackle. I know he's been recruited as an interior lineman. I know you think he's going to play interior, and I think he will too because that's how he's recruited. But I will say, I think he can play both. I think he absolutely can play tackle because he's got that ability and that skill set. What great film, Nick. Tell me what you like about this guy. You've spent some time with him. You talked to him. You've done great stuff. By the way, again, I've said this on most shows that Nick's on with us. Check out his work on badger247.com. If you're not, his best work is obviously the VIP stuff's behind the paywall. Believe me, it's worth it. It's not a very expensive thing. And if you can make it happen, it's great content. There's definitely some free stuff that Nick puts out there as well, but unbelievable reporting from you, Nick, on this. Tell me what you like about Hardy Watts, man.
Man, that truly meant a lot to me, my friend. You know, I will say just briefly, I'm proud of our coverage on this one because and I do wish Justin was here just for this part because I know we all agreed. There was this Michigan buzz recently, and I was steadfast that, you know, maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't. And from my understanding, I just spoke with Hardy today on Monday, once Wisconsin had that OV, he never really lost that momentum with the Badgers. So I want to note that this was a terrific last few months. As for his game, my friend, I will go as far as saying I think he is one of the safest, if not the safest pick to succeed in the entire class. You talk about his hands, his arm strength, his upper body strength, I should really say. And while that jumps out at me, I also wrote a bunch about his footwork, because I just learned over the last few days he was a lacrosse player a couple years ago. Our guy Brian Doan wrote that he actually went into high school as a wide receiver at around 6'1", 210, 215 at the time. Major growth spurt. Getting to know him a little bit, and I'm very fortunate in the time he's given me. You know, he's a guy that's just going to bring it, whether on the field, off the field. He really cares about academics in the classroom. You know, so that was a major thing for Wisconsin too. And I just feel like as a whole, I mean, we're going to talk more about Coach Blaz, and, you know, I'm going to go into more of the recruiting, like you said, but just stepping back a little bit and looking at these last, we'll even say 10 names, right? The 2024 class and now this 25 class. Rajiv, that is up there, man, with anybody in the entire nation. You're looking at center, guard, obviously the tackle talent. It's quite impressive. And now you can confidently say nobody's really touching this O-line class in the Big Ten.
Man, I totally hear you on this. And I think listen, when Luke Fickell came to Wisconsin, we knew we were getting a shift in our culture and a shift in the way we play football. You know, then you bring in Phil Longo and you think air raid, you think of all this like high flying stuff that we're not used to seeing at Wisconsin. But what all Badger, certainly from me and Badger fans that I've talked to, said, look, it's still important that we run the ball. Running the ball is still a critical part of our DNA as a program. And in any Phil Longo offense, you want that threat. You want to be able to do that. And there may have been a thought that we were going to kind of maybe go away from our traditional sort of like monster O-line, but boy, have we come back with a vengeance. And even when AJ Blazek was brought in, we're going to get into him a little bit, but like no one was really sure what to expect. But you can tell that O-line U is he really here to stay. And I think that is exciting just within itself, just knowing that this guy adds to that piece. And things are kind of moving back in that other direction of, whatever offense we have, we're going to have a line that can compete with the best lines in the country. And that has been a cornerstone of our program for so many years. And if you're going to have success in the Big Ten, and you're going to have success in college football, and if you're going to do the things that we want to do, the things that Luke Fickell said when he took over this program about wanting to win championships and taking this program to the next level, you have to have O-linemen like this. And now there's other positions that we have to do too, and that's fine. But offensively, it starts up front, and I'm really proud of the fact that we've done this and we bring this guy in. And I want to talk about his recruitment. You've done a great story on Badger 247. Check it out. He actually does an interview with Hardy Watson. There's a lot of great quotes in there. I want to ask you first to tell me a little bit about that and kind of open it up to you and talk about what you want. But I want to know specifically why he chose Wisconsin from your perspective and things that you talked to him, because I mean, you've said it many times on the show, relationships are key, and Blazek and Fickell. By the way, if you haven't, I said it in the opening, Michigan and Clemson, by the way, are the teams that were out there. You obviously said Michigan was never in the lead, but these were his final three schools: Michigan, Clemson, and Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is where he's coming. Why is he choosing this place? What did he say about that? Why did he want to come here so bad?
Absolutely, Rajiv. And I just want to know, I do think Michigan had the lead, going into June.
Sure.
He said they were, I think, like his top school. But yeah, just meaning since Madison, right. I would put the Badgers up there the entire time. Yep. And so that was, 2-3 weeks fully. And so what I would say to that is I could break it down further, but, to keep it short and accurate with you, two main things. I'm going to go maybe the most important, but the shorter one first. That is NFL development. I've got a quote in there from the young man himself. I felt like I could be developed to the NFL the best at Wisconsin in Madison. So that is major. And then number two, I'll preach it about Coach Blaz, Casey Robach, Pat, Max, Coach Guyton, like throughout, whatever targets we're talking about, a Coach Tressel with Mason Posa, like relationships have been so huge. And with Hardy, It was Blazek, as we will get into. It was Casey Rabach, because he has the literal Badgers DNA, a legend at Wisconsin, an NFL player. I believe he was a Pro Bowler too in the league, at least 1 or 2 years with Washington. On top of that, there's the group within the old line room, the line of beef. That also features a guy that I talked about in the recruiting department, Jared Thompson, Zach Heeman. Like, these guys crushed it. And Rajiv, I would not be accurate if I did not give credit to the players, the current players here in Madison, Kevin Haywood, Colin Coverly, some of the older guys that have really kind of focused and pitched this meaning of what it is to be a Badger in that room. And then, of course, we'll see what would have happened, if this happened or not. But the other guys in the class, Michael Roski, Logan Powell, Cam Clark, and so on, that social media thing that they did for him, that was pretty cool to, kind of show not only, hey, man, the staff wants you, but we want you to be a part of this thing. So that was kind of, what really took it over the top. And I'll get into that a little bit further because I love the platform that, you're kind of mentioning. But we went pretty deep into this one. And, I was just really impressed with his openness. This is a VIP note, but I'm cool sharing it, man. You always give me this stage. He's at a Zach Bryan concert last week, right? He's at a Zach Bryan concert with his girlfriend and a couple friends. He looks over at his girlfriend. He looks over at his friends. He says, guys, I know where I'm going to school. And he didn't relay where. He didn't say it yet, but he felt that in that moment, like, hey, I've got this decided. They give him a hug. They tell him, we got you, man. And then sounds like he told him Friday or Saturday. But I thought that was pretty cool. And I was really grateful that he shared, yeah, this is what went into it. And then just this random moment, I felt it in my gut. It was final. Time to roll.
I love that. I loved reading that quote. You mentioned other players. I also want to mention Joe Thomas was also a part of this too, which was cool. Joe Thomas didn't put in a call.
It was cool. At one point, Joe Thomas, checked in just because the program means so much to him, obviously. And we know he's one of the greatest linemen to ever play the game. And from what I understand, just speaking with Hardy, it was a total surprise, of course, not that's something expected. It wasn't anything crazy. He just really talked about his career, how much this place meant to him. And what I thought was cool is, this is obviously a much newer staff regime. They didn't, cross paths with Thomas or anything, but just talking about what it means to be a Badger and an old lineman in this city. I mean, even through some of the quote unquote down years, right, of this program. And for most schools, those are not down years, but there's always 1 or 2 old linemen drafted. And now you're seeing borderline 5-star guys like Kevin Haywood, bunch of 4 stars, even high 3s. We're going to see that back. And so that was kind of something that I was really trying to write about, because I think it's legitimate that you look around the country, Big Ten, SEC, wherever, there aren't as many stacked O-line units as this one right now, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, well said there. And I think that's really the key is things are kind of shifting in the right direction, which is really good. Brandon Cook has a good comment here. The public recruiting by current commits have been awesome. Saw a few focusing their attention on Gentry now after Watts committed. I think the point here that I think Brandon's making, which I like, is that there's so much that's going into recruiting, and it's all that social media stuff you're talking about. It's the way that they're treating. I saw a tweet the other day. I don't remember if it was someone who tweeted it. It was showing pictures of official visits a couple years ago, and then official visits now, the pictures people put on social media, and how much more fun the marketing team is getting with that kind of stuff. And of course, you're seeing players post and everything. And it's really a culture of improving the recruiting profile that we have here and making it better. And it's really impressive. And I think that there's just something that, it's exciting, and it brings a level of, of sort of the program is moving in the right direction when you get a guy like Hardy Watts. The reason Hardy Watts is coming is certainly one of the reasons, of course, as I mentioned, we've talked about a couple of times, AJ Blazek, offensive line coach, a new addition to the staff this year. He clearly was a massive part of this. And Nick, I mean, throughout everything, all the roots that you've been talking to, I mean, we've heard this guy's name pop up time and time again. Every single time you talk about a new offensive lineman, you hear what you're saying, and you're obviously plugged into this kind of stuff. And I do want to say, you guys really did hit the nail on the head. And you specifically, I mean, your coverage has been top notch, and you guys have really done a great job. And there's a lot of recruiting sites out there. Of course, there's On3 and there's Rivals and everything. There's a lot, and it's all good work. Everyone does good work everywhere, but you guys have really hit the nail on the head with this one. So kudos to you on that. But back to Coach Blaz. The relationships are key, and everyone's bringing it up. Like, what are you guys seeing from him? I mean, my goodness, the guy has just been crushing it. I mean, is he the biggest addition to this staff? Is there anyone that you can point to that can say, yeah, he's more important as far as the new people that have come in? He's been incredible.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody I'd put above him, certainly. And it's interesting. So I looked back just because I wanted to make sure I was being accurate with you guys and, the readers. And I looked back in the timeline, that, kind of timestamp. And I put on January 12th this year. So we're now 6 months removed from that. There are some industry connections, things like that. I said, guys, I've really heard two things about this new O-line hire. I've heard that he is a connector. Obviously really good with relationships, things like that. And he's a hell of a football coach with like high energy. And then fast forward, it would have been 3 or 4 weeks later, we had a press conference with him. And Rajiv, in this coaching world, man, there's energy and then there's kind of genuineness. And I think that he is that rare coach that can show both of them while still having, of course, the knowledge of the game, obviously played it at a very high level, and he's showing his chops on the recruiting trail. But to me, there are times other coaches like throughout the, nation, they may not be sincere and may still get their guys, whatever that looks like. But in terms of being able to develop, connect, and bring in recruits and build them up, I think genuineness is so important. So that has really jumped out at me. I've written about it. I've talked about it on shows. Frankly, it's blown me away because not everybody is necessarily like that in that industry. I think there are a lot of guys, even specifically in that O-line group, that are, here in Madison, that are like that. Casey Robach certainly connects like that and shows a lot of that as well. But I think that's really been impressive. And I think you're going to think even more highly of him as kind of the time goes on. I mean, think about it. This is just his first class. And he got here in the middle of basically that recruiting calendar, right, for the 2025 class. I've seen good things from the current players. So that all really kind of goes into it for me. I think it was a home run hire that is showing flashes of grand slam ceiling potential because he's just crushed it. And it felt like, Hardy was absolutely a battle. We're not going to deny that. But some of these other guys, it felt like, it almost popped out of nowhere that they were becoming Badgers. And so they just keep this steady stream of momentum. And, maybe some things are a little bit, more behind the scenes or less put out there than others. And then like a Nolan Davenport, boom, takes a trip to Wisconsin, Badger a few days later. So I think it's been quite impressive. And frankly, as I wrote, I think it's just the start, man. I really do.
I mean, that's the best news is that we talk a lot on the show about upward trajectory of the program. And I think that's really what you're seeing. And this kind of a recruit with Watts just shows that. It's like, it's that upward momentum. It's the fact that we're moving in the right direction and we're doing things that, that we didn't really necessarily think was possible until obviously especially with the prior staff. Now, if you're looking at we got a comment here from Greg Campbell using 247 website. If you rank 2025 based on star average, Wisconsin is 24th right now. You will see that we did drop in the overall recruiting rankings. I think we're composite like 16th, I think right now as of a few minutes ago. That's not because we obviously just landed another 4-star. It's at other schools, like Oregon, kind of jumped up ahead of us now, and because they added more recruits. So we obviously had a pretty big number before a lot of other schools did. So that's obviously there. But irregardless of that, I still think we're going to end up as a top 15 class, hopefully. But either way, like, we're making big improvements. Steve Kneebone says, as long as the Badgers keep Blazek and Brady Collins, the O-line recruiting will be awesome. Brady Collins is another guy that there was another quote that you had in your article about, Hardy Watts is ready to work with Brady Collins. And if you watch social media, if you've seen the squat fest that happened, and by the way, Will Pauling just absolutely crushing it with the squats. I think it was like 585 I saw online.
Jake Chaney too, by the way. But
yeah, Jake Chaney. I mean, it's fun to watch that kind of stuff. But the thing is, these kids love that. And Brady Collins is having this energy associated with him. And the fact that you literally did an article about a top-notch 4-star recruit. And one of the things that he mentions is the strength and conditioning coach. And I just feel like that's something that it gets overlooked. And I mean, we talk about Brady Collins a lot on the show. We're huge fans of Brady Collins, obviously, but that's the kind of thing that is happening now. We're seeing this culture shift, and that's a really big part of it. I think Brady Collins deserves a lot of credit for what he's doing. But you're right, man. Blazek, it's just this coaching staff is humming right now. Really humming.
They absolutely are. And you know, I love what you said about Brady Collins. I got a chance to speak with him a little bit, you know, at Squat Fest. And yeah, not only did Hardy Watts mention that, right? That was the top thing that he mentioned. I always ask these commits, what are you most looking forward to, man? You know, on the field, off the field. And he kind of started it with, I don't know if I included, you know, these 3 or 4 words, but he's like, might sound kind of weird or different, but you know, I can't wait to just hit the weight room with Brady Collins and the guys. That's pretty cool. You know, Collins, I think, again, it's really impressive, though, because he brings the energy, but he's also shown this clear track record of strength and development and, of course, conditioning. So really, really good stuff. You know, hat tip to Coach Blaz, Casey Robach, Luke Fickell, you know, really the entire staff and players. I mean, this was one that, as positive and optimistic as I was, and I felt like I had this one pretty well covered since March, it still would have been tough to kind of handicap it as like, all right, the Badgers are going to get this guy, you know, because even as of mid-May, he was still kind of figuring out his OVs, and just the fact that he was able to lock in Madison as a destination early on comparatively to other schools, that felt like, okay, they're going to have at least a 40-50% chance. And they closed it out, man, against the champs that, you know, from my understanding, and this is from Hardy directly too, Michigan was very high up there. I don't think anybody recruited this young man like the Badgers did.
And that's really good to see. And listen, when you talk about Michigan and Clemson, let's talk a little bit more about that. Clemson, I've said multiple times, and Ryan and Justin will give me some crap for this. I think I've always said I feel like we could be the next Clemson. You know, and I've said that many times on this show, Locked On Badgers Anywhere, Twitter. I think we have that ability. And so I like that we beat Clemson in this too, because Clemson is a school that, you know, historically you look back and they're not like this massive program, but then all of a sudden they kind of popped on. Dabo Swinney's done a great job there, and they become this national championship team. And I hope, and I really hope, because I'm, of course, an eternal optimist Badger fan, I do hope that Luke Fickell can take us to the promised land and to actually get us to beat that kind of a program. It was important to beat that school and to beat the defending national champions. And that's what's special is those schools, their pedigree is all that is they need, what they need in most situations. Where we clearly won is the relationships. And that's a really special part, because that is what you have to do to get those guys. Because if you're going to ever recruit a top 10 class, you have to beat schools like Michigan and Clemson to guys that they want. And whatever they say about how much they wanted him or not, they wanted him. I mean, you look at the guy's film, anyone's going to want him. My goodness. I mean, how big of a deal is it to
everybody
in your
man?
mind?
I mean, Georgia was seeing him like this spring and offered. He had a Bama offer. So yeah, I won't get too into it, because, you know, that stuff bums me out and disappoints me when, you know, media or teams kind of pump that out there. But all these teams really wanted him in the end, especially that top 5 or 6.
Yeah. Winning Gambler says, stars, schmars, I want ballers, and Watts is definitely a baller. And that's Winning Gambler. It's a great comment. And I just think that, like, that's the thing. And I guess I've said it before, I'll say it again. I challenge everyone to go to huddle.com, HUDL.com, and check out the film. It's impressive stuff. I feel like when I watched that film, I literally was like, wait a second, what did I just see? I rewound that thing and watched it multiple times, because I'm like, boy, that guy's film is fantastic. And yeah, it's special. Anything else on Hardy Watts' recruitment that you wanted to kind of, any nuggets of information that you wanted to talk about, or any things you want to go over with it?
Yeah, the Michigan aspect was really important. You know, the players, and just, yeah, I felt like, you know, Clemson, I mean, they did a fine job. Like he said, I want to make sure I really liked Clemson. But yeah, I mean, it just walking into Madison, spending time with the staff, the current players, talking with commits, that officially changed this whole thing. And I guess I want to make sure that message is, kind of relayed from me, because I really appreciated your kind words. When I put something out, especially on a top guy on our boards or on the shows, whatever, like I have, I'm pretty confident. And I just spoke with him today, and he's like, yeah, Michigan was maybe my top school, but ever since Madison, like, he felt like that was going to end up being a return with the Badgers. So worth mentioning there, and just what a class on the O-line.
Seriously. I mean, you talk about, gosh, like it's really in 2 classes, by the way, because I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just that. You look back at the Mandel Haywood. I mean, I'm a huge Kevin Haywood fan. I think Kevin Haywood's going to be a massive,
Mhm.
player for us at left tackle in the near future, which is just awesome. And yeah, it's just fantastic to see it. Zach Bart's good friend of the show says, let's surprise everyone again and land Cade Peters. Zach, well, that'd be pretty great. There's still guys out there, Nick. There's still guys out there
Yeah.
that we could do it. I mean, it's not necessarily done. The class is not complete. I mean, who
No.
knows what else we're gonna get? We're gonna get more guys. And yeah, it's shaping up really nicely. One other guy that got added to this class, we don't talk about special teams a ton. Eric Schmidt gets added to the class, punter. Um, Special teams is an important aspect, and we've sort of in the past we were spoiled as Badger fans. We had really good special teams, and lately it's been a bit dicey. We've had good punters in the past, most certainly, but we're in a situation where we need to really add good special teamers. Your thoughts on Eric Schmidt and what he kind of brings to that special teams room?
Yeah, I'll do you one better, my friend, and give the thoughts of the director, founder of Cole's Kicking. I'm fortunate to have a relationship with him, father of an old Iowa State recruit that I covered, JJ Cole. So I spoke with Jamie Cole, about Eric Schmidt, and he was telling me things like his top, his A ball, his best ball is in the top 10 to 15% of like college specialists already. He's got the leg strength and the desire to be great. This is a terrific addition for the Badgers. He'd followed Eric since he was just a freshman. Cole's Kicking was following Eric Schmidt, top punter in the land, a top, I think, 7 kicker in the country, based on these rankings, which are often really good to follow. We eventually rate like specialists that go to Power 5 programs if they aren't already. But that was just really cool to hear. I was happy to hear that. Anytime you can keep not only a big time specialist, but an in-state guy like Eric home is terrific. And, there were scholarships in there as well. I think Boston College at least. So great addition. And I just want to add on, class is not over. However, at 21 scholarship commits, they're in a really, really good spot. So it's also not the type of thing where there's like a feeling of desperation, anything like that. But yeah, you mentioned, a couple names. I'm sure we will do a show about Moise Tunkara at some point. His date's coming up soon, and I still feel pretty good there at least. Badgers are at least top 2, if not leading. But really, really fun couple weeks in the class.
Zach Bart says special teams have hurt us as of late, so no doubt about that. So landing someone like Schmidt is an underrated add to this class. I agree, very underrated add to the class, and I think we need that stuff. That's it's like we got to take those baby steps and make sure that we get those key guys. And yeah, we're not done. So we're certainly Moise Tunkara, certainly Cade Peterzak is out there. Certainly, can we flip guys? Because listen, things are going to change. It's not like this is going to be our final class. Like there's going to be probably some decommits. That's going to happen. Let's be honest about that. And we lost one recently. Can we flip other guys back that we were looking at? Right. I mean, this class is not over, but I think there's still, a lot to be done. But what a great ad for Hardy Watts. I mean, that's a guy. Again, please go check out his film. Trust me, it's worth it. Nick, final thoughts. We're going to make this a bit shorter show because it is late. And it's on a Monday, so we'll be back, by the way, to our normal Sunday shows next week. Final thoughts, Nick, on anything related to Wisconsin, Hardy Watts, Blazek, anything?
Yeah, just really, really impressive. I mean, I can't say it enough. If people are interested in kind of getting a little bit more of the behind the scenes, we do have a 50% off special going on. I'm not somebody that, really just kind of pumps things, because there are many, many more important things in life than, reading about my work. I understand that, but a really, really good price right now. You get fresh content, I promise you, every single day. Have not had a day without content for me or my colleague Evan Flood. I think it's really good stuff. this class, I wrote it about the staff. They continue to kind of flex their muscles, and it's not just quantity, but like quality of these players beating national contenders, national programs. I think it's quite impressive, and it helps make my job very fun as well.
Yeah, I mean, impressive, I think, is an understatement at this point. And I just, it's the relationships and everything they've built clearly shows a sort of dedication to their craft and what they're doing. And the other thing that I would add is, which I've said a couple times on Locked On Badgers in the last couple of years, is modernization of recruiting. And in the NIL era and everything that's happening, we need players and we need coaches that understand who these kids are, what's important to them right now, social media and like their marketing, their brand, and everything like that. And it's understanding the times, modernizing what we're doing, and making sure that, look, at the end of the day, they're clearly focusing relationships more than other schools, and certainly more than previous staffs. That's great to see, because that's really how things go. Nick, we always appreciate your time. You are always welcome, a welcome guest on the Bucky Report. Justin, again, of course, he's traveling with his son. They're on a great vacation, but we're happy that Nick was able to join us. Thank you for all that you joined us live. And if you listen to this tomorrow, whether it's on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you are, we're glad you listened to the Bucky Report. We will be back. I know we've been telling you guys about our Friend or our Know Your Foe series. We haven't launched it yet because Justin and I are kind of in the middle of vacation times right now, but we will be doing that in advance of the 2024 season. Starting with Western Michigan, we're going to go right down the list and talk about all of them. We've already got some things cooking on it, but it will be released soon. And Justin, of course, has been starting his Friday thing. We're going to be doing some question answer stuff. So lots of good stuff coming. We are nearing this football season. We are a mere couple months away. It is under 2 months. It is awesome, and we're happy. Nick, thank you again for your time. Really appreciate everything that you do for us and all the content. Again, check him out, badger247.com. Believe me, he's not going to always tout himself, but I'm going to do it. His work is awesome. You want to check it out. And as always, guys, on Wisconsin.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bucky Report or The Bucky Report Podcast from wherever you get your content. Until next time, on Wisconsin.